In her final State of the State address, Governor Rell laid down the law. She told lawmakers the bipartisan bickering needs to stop. The governor also revealed her proposals to fix the state's $500 million budget deficit for this year alone, saying no to higher taxes. The governor's budget proposes to cut spending by $28 million. Here are some of the highlights. Under the Rell budget, college graduates might be eligible for up to $10,000 in loan forgiveness. Most cities and towns will continue to receive state aid, which means your local taxes might not change. And meanwhile, some Medicare recipients will be required to make co-payments. Also, one of her main priorities, she says, is to grow jobs. And to help that, she's proposing a $2,500 tax credit for every new employee a company hires, $75 million in loan guarantees for small businesses, and the creation of a 24-member commission to look for government waste. Here now to help us understand where the budget goes right and wrong, Senator Donald Williams and Senator John McKinney. Thanks, both of you, for coming here today.
Thank you.
You know, I'm not an economist. I was an economics major for some time. But please explain how, with this massive budget gap, you know, she makes $28 million in cuts, which is certainly laudable. But how is that going to make a dent in that big of a gap?
Well, it's not in the short term, but she's got another package that's coming out later this month that's supposed to tackle about $500 million worth of the current deficit in this fiscal year. And it's why all of us have to work together to not only solve the problem and balance the budget this year, but chip away significantly at the deficit that we have in the out years, next year and thereafter.
What are some of the key points in that, in working together and in chipping away, that you have?
Well, I think the key point is we have to understand that we need to stop spending so much money in the state of Connecticut. They're difficult decisions to make, no doubt, but you know, every family across the state during this economic recession has made tough decisions. They're learning to live with less. We need to do the same thing in government. I think the governor struck the right note about focusing on jobs and getting our economy growing and balancing our budget deficit. We are going to have to make some difficult cuts in spending. Hopefully we can make government more efficient and do some of the same things we're doing for less money. That would be a great start at solving this. But they're going to be difficult decisions to make. We can't rely on the federal government anymore for more stimulus money. We've used our rainy day fund. Now it's really up to us in terms of prioritizing our spending. What's
one area of cuts that you see that needs to be done?
You know, I would say, and I think John and I may have some agreement here, slimming down our government and the bureaucracy, taking a look at overlap. For example, John and I have talked about looking at economic development agencies. We've got a number of them that finance or hopefully finance our businesses, keep them afloat, and oftentimes companies get shuttled from one agency to another to another. We need to combine these agencies, save money on the bureaucracy, cut back on the overhead, and quite frankly make things simpler and more efficient for the users, the business folks who want to create and grow jobs in Connecticut.
But how quickly can that happen? Because I know that you all have to know that when people hear about a commission being formed at home, they roll their eyes. They do. They think, here we go, we're going to form a commission, we're going to do a study, and then we're going to figure it out. But how quickly, practically, can you find ways where there is government waste or ways to be more efficient?
Well, I think legislators roll their eyes when they hear commission, too. The reality is there's some things that we can do right now and get the ball rolling and start saving money now. There are other things that do take time, which I would argue that's why we need to start doing them now as well. I agree with Senator Williams, and we've all talked about trying to get our economic development agencies to be more efficient. There are other things we could look at doing as well. I happen to believe there are things that we do as a state that cost us too much money that can be done in the nonprofit world. For example, the state runs and owns a psychiatric hospital for young kids, Riverview Hospital. Senator Williams, myself, Larry Cafaro, Senator Meyer have all worked and talked about closing down that hospital and still caring for those kids. Believe it or not, Lori, it costs the state over $900,000 a year per child at that hospital.
Wow.
If you talk to people at Yale University, at Yale Medical Hospital, if you talk to people at Holbrook Hospital, which is in Westport, Connecticut, psychiatric hospital for young kids, it costs them over $400,000 per child per year. Still a lot of money, but the state can save $500,000 a year and still care for these kids. That could save us $20 to $30 million a year. Now, can you do that overnight? No. You need to start the process now. You don't want any child to be left without care. You need to phase that in, but we can do that if we start now.
We're talking a lot about savings, but realistically, can we actually do this without increasing taxes?
Well, that's what the governor said she wants to do this year. So I think we need to roll up our sleeve, find all the consolidations and the savings, wring out the efficiencies out of state government, and see how far that gets us. I mean, the governor's going to put some additional cuts on the table before the end of this month. I've asked all of my colleagues in the legislature to keep an open mind. I mean, we have got to balance the budget. That's job number one. And I would say job number two is help create and preserve jobs. I was glad to hear the governor say that those were her principles to guide the session. Those are ours as well. We've been talking about those two issues for weeks and months now. So I think we're in sync on how we want this to wind up. And now the question is, can we come together, work as Democrats, Republicans, the governor, the legislature, and get this done? That's what I would like to see us do.
Right. I'm not making this up. I was at the hair salon today, and people were asking who was going to be on the show. I told them you all were coming on, and everybody was talking about this Keno thing. I mean, Keno, is that going to go through? Or?
Well, you know, there are, I guess, some legal issues we need to look at. I'm sure the Attorney General will look at that as to whether or not it violates our compact with the existing Native American tribes, the Mohegans and the Mashantuckets. If it violates that compact, we can't go forward with that because that would jeopardize the casino revenue we already get, which the state needs desperately. So I think that's the threshold question. If it doesn't violate the compact, I think we should take a look at it because in effect we already have Keno in the state. We have it at Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun. We should look at how it works in other states as well. I've never done it. I've seen it in other states. I don't get the attraction to it. Right. But if it doesn't violate the compact and it's going to bring additional revenue, it might be something we want to look at.
You agree?
And I have not favored Keno in the past. I've opposed that. But the governor's bringing it back. She's saying, please take another look at it. You know, I'm willing to ask my caucus to look at that again. And I hope the governor would also look at other issues. Like last year I proposed significant restructuring of our Department of Motor Vehicles. Again, cut back on the bureaucracy, make the services more user-friendly and save money. I mean, maybe we can all move to a new place where we're taking a fresh look at these ideas so that we can get it done.
All right, well, we wish you good luck. Thanks very much for joining us. Senator Don Williams and Senator John McKinney breaking the budget down for us. Ahead, that's the word from state lawmakers, but what do local leaders think? We're going to hear that coming up.